Richard, in the lesson, you talk about how we need to become more aware of ourselves. But isn't the goal of theology to seek objective truth?
Yes, it is. And this is a hard one because people take this as being either or. Either we're going for objective truth or we need to get to know ourselves and the tradition we're a part of and become more self-aware of it. It's really not either or. Let me see if I can put it to you this way. The goal as a Christian of theology is to know the truth that God has revealed, primarily the revelation of God in the Bible. Okay, so that's sort of our target. We're aiming for it. But let me just ask you this question, Eric. Have you ever been purely objective about anything in your life?
No.
Now, sometimes you feel that way, yeah?
I do, yes.
Like I'm just stating the facts, right? Like when you say this dinner was good, okay?
Yeah.
Or if you say that may be taken as an objective fact, but if you say the dinner is bad, it's probably not going to be taken as an objective fact by the person who cooked it, okay?
Right.
The fact is that as much as we may try to be objective about things, we can't be utterly objective because only God can do that. Only God has all knowledge and has all perspectives in His mind at once and knows all things about a subject or a topic. We only get bits and pieces, and we only see them from angles, and we only understand and remember certain things at certain times. And so everything we do has an element of the subjective in it. And that's why it's important to get to know the subject, you, and what branch of the church you come from and how those things have influenced you. Now, we know the difference between people who are being just sort of arbitrary and saying that things are this way or that way just because they want to. In fact, that's kind of a common thing these days. People will say, well, this is a good thing to do. Why? Well, because I think it's good to do. No reasoning, no objectivity about it at all. We know the difference between that kind of arbitrary subjectivism versus someone who's trying to understand the facts as much as they can, but can never get completely out of their skin to understand it perfectly or perfectly objectively. And so as Christians, we're not supposed to yield to the sort of subjective element by simply saying, well, God isn't that way. Why? Well, because I don't want Him to be, or I refuse to take Him to be that way. Or that verse can't say that because I don't want it to say that. That's just arbitrary. But at the same time, we can't say, and we shouldn't say, people do it all the time, but they shouldn't say to themselves, well, all I'm doing is looking at the objective facts. Because every time we look, even at the facts of the Bible, we're always looking at it with the vantage point of who we are, what we've become all of our lives, the things that our parents taught us, the things we've learned on our own, the things our churches have told us to emphasize and de-emphasize, to make central and marginalize. All those things influence us always, and we can never escape that. And so this goal of objectivity that the Enlightenment had, and that unfortunately even many evangelicals have today, of pure objectivity, where you take yourself out of the equation, where your influences and your prejudices and your beliefs have nothing to do with your task at this moment. Instead, you're just going after the facts, say, of the Bible, what this verse meant. It's impossible. It cannot be reached. And so when people think they have reached it, that's when it really becomes dangerous. Because at that point, they stop evaluating what they think the verse says. If it's just the truth, if it's just objective, then why ever evaluate it again? But as we said earlier, we always change our views on verses in the Bible, right? And so nothing is ever purely objective from a human point of view. That doesn't mean it's not true. It just means it's not purely objective. And those are two very different kinds of things.
So we may continually struggle with this balance between objectivity and subjectivity.
Yeah, of course, always. I mean, this is the way life is. It's always a matter of becoming more aware of who we are as well as what the facts are out there. Because if I can put it to you this way, you can't eliminate, you can't erase who you are. But you can, if you become more self-conscious of it. What am I a part of? What part of the body of Christ has influenced me? What systems of thought have influenced me? If you become more aware of it, then at least you can begin to manage it. And you can say to yourself, I probably read this verse this way because of what I've been taught all my life. Now I need to look at it again and see if that's really what I believe, if I think that's what that passage actually says. I mean, I can think of my own life because I've come from several different Christian churches, several different denominations in my Christian experience. And I can tell you that at each stage of shifting from one group to another, it wasn't just small things that changed. They were large things that changed. And I had to get over a lot of my prejudices as I moved, in my opinion, closer to what the objective truth is. Now, what's funny about this is that I feel as if I've moved toward the more objective point of view through my life, going from this denomination, that denomination, that denomination. But what's interesting is when you meet people that have taken just the opposite path of you, and they feel like they're moving more toward objective truth, but they've gone from the group that you ended up with to the other group and to the one you started with. And that's when it becomes very obvious that nobody is just giving the facts. Nobody's just getting what's out there. We're all looking at what's out there in terms of who we are. And that's why in this lesson then, as we think about how it is that branches of the church influence us, the more we can become aware of that, how traditions do this to us, the better off we'll be as we try to serve Christ as faithfully as we possibly can.